we will together see what are the different parts of a newsletter and how we can, crack this anatomy and craft a very persuasive newsletter for our audiences. So that's why the title, the anatomy of a newsletter. And before I go into the session, I would like to request all of you to just type a Y for a yes or a N for a no, uh, answering this question. Are you already sending newsletters every month, quarter? Are you here to learn and then start the newsletter? uh, what is your current status? Just wanted to understand how many of us are already sending newsletters. And the period I have mentioned is a regular period. You could be doing it in some other format also, that's okay. Just a yes or no would help me understand how many of us are already sending newsletters. Okay, I see a lot of Y's and some N's also. Yeah. So thank you. Please keep sharing while I go to the next screen. Uh, I just asked this question. Maybe later I just wanted to gauge how many of us are already using newsletters as a medium of communication for our work, our impact stories, etc. So yeah, so moving forward, what are we going to just wanted to take all of you through the agenda of the session and how are we going to unfold the session together. So I will start a little bit, start by telling you a little bit about myself, and then we will go to the heart of the newsletter, then the head of the newsletter, and then some other parts. I did not want to name them stomach and lungs, so I just called them other parts. And then we will conclude the session with some major learnings that we have gone through together in this session. And then we will open the platform for some question Q&A in case you want to ask some questions, and we can have an engaging Q&A at the end of it. Yeah. So a little bit about myself. I am currently based in Mumbai. I have been with Bhumi for the last 7.5 years now. I have a teenage son, and that's why I while in the morning I'm crafting campaigns, my evenings are spent navigating the teenage timeline. And I love reading, I love to meditate, and I love cracking silly jokes. So that's a little bit about me. And I joined Bhumi as a volunteer, and now I'm working here as a full timer for the last around 7 years. Yeah. So before we delve into, how to craft a persuasive newsletter, I just wanted to also share some data around newsletters so that we understand why and how and where other NGOs in the ecosystem are using newsletters. So one of the interesting data points is almost 69% of nonprofits worldwide regularly publish an email newsletter. And out of that, 41% use it monthly, and others use it quarterly, twice monthly, weekly. There is percentages for each of them, as you can see on your screen. So this is just some data I wanted to share with all of you, just to bring some perspective into the space. Yeah. Okay, now let's move into the heart of a newsletter. Why do I call it the heart of a newsletter? So, you know, usually beyond the body anatomy, heart is considered to be the space for love, care, joy, happiness. So that's why I am calling these things the heart of the newsletter. These are the things that will bring a lot of joy to the reader. It'll make your newsletter a happy sort of a communication. People would really look forward to it. So that's the reason I chose to call these things the heart of a newsletter. And what are these things? Let's go one by one. So the first and the most important thing of any communication that as an NGO or as a non-profit we want to share with our audience are our stories. Uh, and that's one of the biggest thing that we should focus when we are crafting our newsletters. So the hero of the newsletter, or something that should catch everybody's attention, is that one impactful story that you want to share, maybe every month, every quarter, depends on the timeline that you are following for your newsletter. So that engaging content, that impactful story, and a big part of crafting that story is to also think about what your audience would like to read, what is your audience looking forward to. For example, if you are working in education, right, people would really like to read about maybe a child story or something that you did with children, that made some difference in that particular month or that particular quarter. So thinking about what your audience would really like to know about your work, your impact in that period. So and crafting a story around it instead of just making like an update. You can always think of it as a story. You can communicate it in a creative way, and how you make it more engaging for your audience will actually make your newsletter stand out. And the other part is some resourceful information, right? Like, what do you want your audience to learn about your nonprofit? Like, uh, something that some event that is coming up where your audience can participate, some important update that you want to share with them. For example, maybe you are halting your volunteering efforts for the next 1 month. I'm just giving an example, and you want your audience to know that. So those kind of information also needs to be a part of your newsletter. And again, you have to consider the timeline in which you are going to share it. uh, One more important aspect of making your newsletter persuasive, especially in an email format, is choosing the right subject line. A lot of times we think that putting it as newsletter January 2023 number, and numbering it as a subject line uh, is sufficient, but that is not going to prompt a new person who has never seen your newsletter in the earlier months to open that newsletter. Or even for that matter, for somebody who has been reading your newsletter, just putting the name of the month and the year may not be very persuasive for them to click on it and open and read it. So thinking about putting one tagline, something which is very interesting in the newsletter, using that as a tagline in the subject, will also drive your open rates. It will also persuade your readers to open that email and read it. So again, that also forms a very important part of crafting a persuasive newsletter. uh, the next part that I want to talk about is the design and layout of the newsletter itself. So there are a lot of things that we have to be mindful when we are designing the newsletter. Apart from the photos and the text content that we are putting, how we arrange the newsletter, what is on the top half of it, what is on the bottom half of it, mobile responsiveness, whether your newsletter is mobile friendly, especially not making two column layouts, because it makes it very difficult to read it on a mobile. uh, Being mindful of the font size. Font size is also very interesting in terms of thinking about your audience. If you know that your audience is of a higher age group, say 40 years and above, please make the font sizes bigger, very, in fact, a lot bigger than your usual size. If uh, So being mindful of these things is also a part of design and layout. Also, it should be, people should be easily able to navigate. If you are putting something, uh, if you are using a particular format month on month, try to keep to that format. Like, if your update section is at the bottom half, try to maintain that when you are sending newsletters month on month, so the reader knows that, okay, if I want to read the updates, I need to scroll down. If I need to read the story, it is on top, because they have been following that month on month. So these things also help the reader to engage with your content effectively. And the last thing about the heart of the newsletter is personalization. For me, this is very, very important. I feel this is something which adds an edge to it. I know a lot of us know about this, but sometimes I have seen a lot of times very generic salutations like "Hi, sir," and "Madam," "Dear sir." But when you're sending a newsletter, the and using a, maybe a mailing software or a mail merge or something like that, it is very easy to personalize it. So do not forget to add the name of the recipient. In a mailing software, it is also possible to add the name in subject lines, add the name somewhere in the content also, so you can experiment with those things also. So personalization is also very, very important when you are sending an email newsletter. And also be mindful of the delivery time and day, like sending newsletter. If you are, scheduling your newsletters, don't schedule it maybe on a weekend after 5 p.m. or after on a weekday after 9 p.m. It's people don't read emails at that time. The ideal times usually to send is midweek sometimes, in during office hours, when people are engaging with their emails already. So these are also some of the aspects beyond the content and images that we choose for our, newsletters, to be very mindful of, to think about it, to make it very audience centric. So somebody has unmuted themselves. Do you want to share something? Okay, I think it's by mistake. No worries. Okay, I'll move to the next part, and then I'll hold for some time. If there are some questions in middle, we can take them also, because I feel like it's becoming a monologue, and it becomes very draining after a point. Yeah. So I'll just stop after this slide, and then we can engage a little bit and then move on. So moving on to the head of the newsletter. Now, why do I call it the head of the newsletter? So these are some of the things which make us smart, which it's I've called it being smart, right? These are the things that you can do beyond the content and images and personalization, to to be smart about your communication, to make your communication very actionable. I know a lot of times we think of newsletter as also adding one donation ask, and adding an appeal to donate. But I would, flip the script and say, maybe avoid that. Focus on building relationships. Focus on building a community. Use the newsletter to engage with your audience as a community and not to ask for donations. Ideally, donation emails, donation appeals will work better when you send a specific email only for that. But as a non-profit, if you feel that asking donations has to be a part of your newsletter, and this is something you don't want to skip, then I would recommend using the rule of 3:1. What does this rules? This is what does it say is, for every three pieces of content where you are not asking something, you can add one content where you are asking a donation. So be mindful of that. You're adding, we try to maintain this ratio, that you are sending three such important information, and in between there is also a nudge for them to donate. So if you can balance that kind of content, and you feel that asking for donations, putting a appeal is important in your newsletter, then I don't see any harm in doing that. But just being mindful of how your content is, other content is balancing this appeal. It should not look like a a completely donation email. Newsletter should usually focus on building relationships, uh, creating a community. People should look forward to your newsletter. So those are the first 2 points I wanted to talk about. The next thing is having very clear call to action. CTA, I have not written the full word for it. It's call to action. Call. What I mean by that is, if you are probably you've written you've written about an update, and you want them to go to your website or your blog and read more about it, then have that clear thing: read more, or uh, read more on our blog, uh, learn more about this, something like this, with a button that redirects them to your website. And it is also very important to maintain this format of redirecting people to your website, because then people learn more about your work, they take informed decisions, they will be persuaded to donate when they know more about you, they will be persuaded to volunteer when they know about you. So if you want people to engage and become an ambassador for your work, it is very important for you to have these links which give them an opportunity to read more about your work and learn more about what you're doing. And your website is the best place to do that, right? So have short pieces of content in the newsletter, and each piece can redirect them to somewhere on the website. That is an ideal way to have content on the newsletter. And another thing is, this also helps you track the links also help you track the click rates. And if people are not clicking enough on your newsletter and just opening the emails, then that means you have to re-strategize your content, you have to rework how you are placing the content, what kind of content is appealing to your audience. You will have to start thinking about those things. And one more important thing here is, if your open rates are high and click rates are not very high, then you have to think about the content. But if your open rates are only low, then maybe go back to the heart of it. Think about the subject line, the delivery time. Maybe those things are not in place. That's why people are not opening your emails enough. So that's the next point that I was talking about, is performance tracking. Open rate, click rates, very important. If you can, if you can track it month on month and see what is working, what is not working, whether open rates are high but click rates are not enough, whether open rate itself is not enough. And then re-strategizing how you want to change things for your newsletter, what is not working, whether it is the heart part of it or the head part of it, or something else. And yeah, make adjustments for improvements. And UTM enabled links, this is a very technical thing to do. If somebody wants to learn more about it, you can reach out to me. This in this session maybe there is not enough time to explain everything, but UTM is basically, if I have to explain it in a very layman term, is, see how when our mom cooks food, right, we, with the smell of it, with the feel of it, we know that this is my mom's food. The same thing UTM does, right? It tells you from where that person is coming on your website, whether it is from social media, whether it is from your newsletter. So UTM is a uh, extra thing that we add to any link, some source, some campaign name, etc. And that will help you know from where that thing is coming, from where people are coming to your website, from where people are coming on that link. So if you want to know more about this or you want to explore this, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to do some KT on this and explain to you in more details. Yeah, and the last thing that I've mentioned in the head part is the asking for feedback. So it is very important for you to know how your audience is feeling about what you're sending them, right? If you don't know that and you just keep sending it, you are missing the opportunity to make changes, you're missing the opportunity to gauge the feelings and the thoughts and the ideas of your audience. So most of the mailing softwares allow you to add a feedback link nowadays. One more thing that you can do is, if you are a team of 50 people, 100 people, you have a team of volunteers, any internal teams, you can reach out to them, conduct an internal survey, build some insights, and then improve your newsletter. But it is, and do this periodically. Understand how your internal audience is also feeling about the newsletter. And then, accordingly, with those insights, you can improve your newsletter. So, this is something that I wanted to talk about, the head of the newsletter, just being smart about what you're doing. So, I will hold for some time now. If you have any questions or you want to share something, ask something about the some of the things that I've already shared, uh, this is the time to do that.
Hi Neha, very useful session so far. Learned a lot of stuff that we've not implemented. One question is the email newsletter more for the older age audience? Because I'm not sure whether the new generation, those between 20 25, do they even look at newsletters? Do we focus more on the social media content?
Uh, Very good question, but I would really like to say that this is a very it's a myth. See, everybody is, even 20-25 year olds are nowadays in some professional network working, and email is deemed to be the best medium for these kind of long copy contents where you want to send a lot of information. Uh, our at Bhumi, our audience is between the age of 18 to 30, majorly our volunteers, and we have, also concluded that email newsletters work best for us too. Even for our campaigns, email marketing works the best. So I even for Gen Z audience, even for younger audiences, uh, email does work a lot. But having said that, I would also call out and say that whatever you're sending out on your newsletter, on your emails, make sure you also cascade them on social media in shorter bites. In uh, if your newsletter has 4 sections, you can make 4 social media posts out of it, so you don't miss out on anybody reading your content. But uh, but email newsletters still seem to be the best medium for all age groups right now. I hope I have answered your question. Yeah.
Very clear. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions?
Hi, this is Amrita from Raintree Foundation. I wanted to know, uh, for an ideal newsletter, how many pages it should have? Like, shouldn't cross these many pages, or these are the pages which are readable. So, what would you suggest?
Yeah. Sorry, I did not get your name.
I'm Amrita from
Yeah.
Raintree Foundation.
Yeah. Hi, Amrita. So, Amrita, I don't think of newsletters in terms of pages nowadays. Like, I think you are talking in terms of a PDF format, right? But people are more very screen oriented nowadays. Everything is on screen. Sending them multiple pages will not help you or help them. My recommendation would be something that they can read on a one screen or two, maximum 2 screens. Like scroll once and read. So it could be say 4 or 5 sections of uh, 3 or 4, maximum 5 lines each, with a CTA button. Uh, that should look like an ideal newsletter in today's times. Cataloging it into pages, making a PDF version, if it works for you, I would still recommend you making it like a one pager or maximum 2 pages. But that is also something I wanted to talk about is I have seen a lot of, in fact, I receive a lot of newsletters on WhatsApp in PDF format. People don't like to open PDF on their mobile phones. One thing, it's you'll have to download it and then open it. The best way to send a newsletter is something that people can see on their screen immediately. So even if you're using WhatsApp, make your content into bite-sized pieces and create it in a way that people can just click on their WhatsApp, open it on their screen and read it, instead of sending a PDF where they have to download it and read it. And it's also very difficult to track if somebody has read those PDFs. So my recommendation would be always to think from the audience perspective, makes very screen oriented newsletters. It could be a WhatsApp newsletter, a LinkedIn newsletter. Best way is to do a new email newsletter, but not something that runs into pages. uh, I hope I have answered your question, Amrita.
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, any more questions? I can take 1 or 2 more questions and then we can move ahead.
Hi, may I? Am I
Yeah,
audible?
yeah,
Hi,
you
this
are.
is Felician from Idobro. So my organization does share, quarterly newsletter. Okay. However, our organization has four verticals.
Okay.
Me as an internal audience find it very difficult and too much of matter in that four vertical. But as it is a quarterly thing, we need to show what all activities happen. So
Okay.
what is the best way putting your way of working, that is the funda that you just explained us, which is more appealing, and I mean I would look forward to something like that. What would you
Right.
suggest in such scenario where there are four verticals and it is a quarterly newsletter? That means
Right.
more content, more activities.
Right. So this is a problem I feel like most non-profits would be facing, right? Something that we at Bhumi also face a lot. We have like around 12, 13 verticals and so many programs running at
Yeah,
the same time.
yeah, and we want to show it, like, we
Yeah, and
want
you
to
want
talk
to
about.
showcase everything to
Yes.
people, right? So see, there are two or three ways to do this. One thing is, if you have the resource and the time, I would recommend sending newsletters based on your audience. Like, you want to send everything to the donor audience, to your people, your donors, then you make a newsletter specifically for them, which calls out all the four verticals, and you have bite-sized contents for each of the verticals. For internal audience, you can have just maybe one impact story of the quarter with some updates from the other verticals, as like a subtext at the end of the impact story. So that is one way to do it. The other way to do it, what we usually do at Bhumi, is we we avoid there are a lot of things that we do only in Tamil Nadu, Chennai, because we are centrally working over there. So we
Hmm.
avoid things which are only for one region or something in our newsletter, and we send those as specific emails to those specific audiences. Anything and everything that appeals to everybody, like pan India, donor audience, volunteer audience, we distill those information, and that is the only information that we put in our newsletter, with one large impact story as the hero of the newsletter, and we send that out. So that's one. Like, if you don't have time and enough time and resource to do multiple newsletters appealing to different audiences, then you can just distill all the information that you feel will is appealing to all kinds of audiences, and craft a newsletter on that. And also, like you said, right, all everybody will not be interested in every vertical. So you can also put some verticals as subtext, and emphasize on the vertical which has done very well in that quarter, maybe. So this is just a way to strategize how you want people to think of your work during that period.
Agreed. And keep it engaging as well.
Yeah, keep it engaging. And in my opinion, I think if you have the time and resource, you can just make subsets and create two three different formats for the same newsletter. Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, I hope I answered your question. Yeah.
Yes, you did. You very much helped me with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, then I think in the interest of time, I'll just move ahead. We just have two or three slides more, and then we can do another Q&A round. Yeah. So, like I said, I did not want to call it stomach and lungs and other body parts. So I just called it other parts of the newsletter. So I think a lot of it got covered in the Q&A also. Some things I wanted to highlight in other parts was, beyond email, consider platforms like WhatsApp. Like I said, cascade whatever you are sharing on newsletters, please cascade it on social media. Definitely make it like into sections and cascade it every day. LinkedIn newsletters is very interesting. You can just copy paste the whole newsletter and make a new LinkedIn newsletter out of it. Uh, Very important is to cater to mobile users more. If you do a survey for your audience, a general statistics would be more than 50% of your people are reading the newsletter on the mobile phone. So how do you tweak all your content, make it visually appealing for mobile responsiveness, is very very important. Like I said earlier, avoid two column content. A lot of templates in these mailing softwares have these two column templates. Best to avoid them. Create a one column template which works well on both mobile and desktop. uh, Font size, be very mindful. Something that is readable on desktop may not be readable on mobile phone. So all mailing softwares have the option for you to check on mobile, check the mobile preview. So make sure that you check your mobile preview, uh, so that you know whether the font size is readable on the mobile. Image size, etc., also is varies for mobile. So being very mindful of, that my audience, a large part of my audience is on mobile, will help you, curate the right newsletter for them. And yeah, the last point is, again, I think I mentioned it in one of the answers. uh, Make it easy to consume on screen. Like, be mindful how many times, if you like, if it is a long newsletter and people have to scroll 5 6 times to read your newsletter, it is very draining. People will not do that. That's how people have become now, how we all have become now, not people. I mean, it's how we function, right? We are reading so many things on our mobile phone every day. It's difficult to scroll 6 7 times for one newsletter. So try to make it in a way that maximum one scroll will cover all your information. When I say scroll, it's like how we read on the mobile, right? We just scroll it up and read. So two scrolls means three screens, like 3 times people have to read. One scroll means 2 times people have to read. So being just mindful of these things, these are very simple things. After you craft your newsletter, you finish your content, images, everything, just checking that these things are in place, spending 15 20 minutes to check about these things also uh, will help you reach your audience in a better way. So these are the other parts. Yeah. And this is the last slide before I, in the interest of time, I have made it very crisp and concise. There are a lot of things about newsletters that we can read and learn, but I try to pack everything in a way that we learn also together, and we don't miss out on important information. So I just wanted to conclude by coming back to these 3 points again, that anything and everything you do for newsletters, but beyond newsletters also social media, any kind of communication that you're doing, be very audience centric. Just allow me 1 minute. Yeah, sorry. Just be very audience centric. Think about what your audience prefers, where your audience is reading this, what is your audience's age group, those kind of things, and then craft your newsletter. And see, if you don't track your efforts, you are missing out on improving things. So it is very important that every link that you put, every information that you put in your newsletter, you are able to track the effectiveness of it. Uh, you should maintain a sheet where you're tracking the open rates, click rates of your newsletter every month. UTM, like I said, if anybody wants to know more, please feel free to reach out to me. It's a very good way to understand how many people are coming. If you are putting donation links, it will tell you how many people came from your newsletter and donated on that link. So it is very important to track and measure your efforts. And last thing is, your newsletter should be something that people look forward to. They should anticipate that, okay, I it's going to be very exciting next month. I'm looking forward to it. So that's how your newsletter, that's how you should think about your newsletter. uh, Make the content very engaging. You need not pack everything into one newsletter. It can just be one story and like some subtext at the end, like I said earlier. uh, and very one impactful story, and that should be enough for people to engage with your newsletter. So don't try to pack everything. Make Don't think that newsletter is just like one update email that you have to send. You should in fact think whether newsletter is even important for you, whether how many people are actually reading your newsletter, whether the effort is worth it or not. And if you will only know that when you track, and you so tracking is also very very important. So this is what, these are three things that I wanted to conclude this session with. Yeah, so Akshay wants you to give some feedback also before we move to the Q&A part of it. So please, if you can scan the QR code, or just type out this link on your desktops or mobile, and just will take you 2 or 3 minutes to give feedback. So please do that. Yeah. Sorry, I think yeah. I'll just keep the screen for a few more minutes so that you can scan and give feedback. Akshay, do you want to add something about the feedback or something?
Not really, Neha. Like, thank you so much, Neha, for taking us to a wonderful session. I have a question, but before I get into it, there are a few questions in the chat box where if you want to put
Akshay,
it.
somebody's asked to type the link. If you can share the
I'll,
link.
I'll add it. I'll add the link in the chat.
I'm just going to the question. Uh, so some of you have asked for the template of an ideal newsletter. My answer to that would be that an ideal newsletter for every organization would look very different. But still, like, in the interest of giving you some ideas, when Akshay is emailing everybody, I'll put a few templates so that you can look through them. But my recommendation would still be, think about what is important for your audience, what is important for you to share as an organization with your audience, and that will form your ideal newsletter. Yeah. So a lot of you have also asked about mailing software. So almost all mailing softwares like Mailchimp, Sendinblue, it's called something different now. All of them have a free 6,000 or 10,000 email that you can send per month. If you are somebody who wants to try and who's not done this before, I would recommend to take the free subscription and try for a mailing list for a few months, and then you can maybe move to a paid plan. Uh, if if you want to know some of the best mailing softwares, I feel like Mailchimp and we are using Mailchimp and Salesforce at Bhumi. These both are very robust email marketing softwares. If you have large lists of audiences, these work very well. There are other mailing softwares like Constant Contact, Sendy, uh, which are also very effective. We can also share a lot of email software names and plans uh, on one email when Akshay is emailing you all. I'll put a list. I'll put a list of multiple emailing softwares, and if I can find out the plans also, I'll add them and share it with all of you. Yeah, there are a lot of them, so I don't want to call out one and miss out on the other. But yeah, Mailchimp, Sendinblue, Constant Contact. These are some of the good ones that you can experiment with. Yeah. Uh, okay, and some other questions. Frequency of the newsletter. Like the data says, most non-profits use a monthly newsletter. So I would also recommend you having a monthly newsletter. But as an organization, if you feel that you don't have enough to share every month, then you can maybe use a quarterly format. Or if as a non-profit you feel that 1 month is too much information, I need to send things even quicker, Then even you can also send a fortnightly newsletter. Depends on how much content and you have to share with your audience. Yeah. Okay. I am also seeing. Okay, how do you redirect the reader? Tamanna has asked, how do you redirect the reader to the website if the newsletter is in an image form? Should we use QR codes to the specific page or just mention? Tamanna, I would, yeah, for a image format, the best way to use is a QR code, and I would recommend having QR codes for each sections of the website instead of redirecting to the whole website itself. That way it gives them a chance to read the different things on website. Otherwise it becomes difficult for a user to search for things on the website sometimes, especially if those are blog posts. Yeah. How do you create a newsletter for WhatsApp, as WhatsApp have more? And then uh, so uh, so Joydeep, like you have rightly pointed out, yes, WhatsApp is the most used communication medium right now. But and WhatsApp is soon going to come up with a newsletter feature where you can, add buttons and do a lot of things. But right now that feature is not there. So, like I said, you have to use WhatsApp in the same way like you use social media. You break your content into bite-sized pieces and you send it, maybe in three goes or four goes instead of one full long PDF file or one full a long text format that you can do on an email right now. But it's soon, very soon, going to come with a newsletter format which will allow you to do a lot more things, like an email newsletter. What is used to have a single page email newsletter? So, Kritika, to answer your question, this is a very long drawn process. I think this will require a session of its own. Uh, there are a lot of email habits and lot of things that you have to do for maintaining a healthy subscriber list and sending welcome emails, telling them how to move your email to uh, from the promotions inbox to your main inbox in your welcome email. Those are some of the things that you have to do to make your subscriber uh, get your newsletters and emails in the primary inbox. And also, a lot of things that you have to do in your emailing software, where you have to remove the unsubscribes periodically, ensure that you don't send any clickbaity subject lines. A lot of things that you have to do. I think we can get into a session for that. And if you want to know something immediately, you can email me and I can help you understand it. But this requires one session of its own. So yeah, a lot of you can read about it on, a lot of sites, Quora, or if you just type this question on Google, a lot of websites talk about this. HubSpot has a lot of articles on this that you can read. Just go to HubSpot and type this question. So you'll get a lot of answers. And if you want to know something specifically, you can write to me also. Yeah. John, I did not understand your question. What is used to have? If you can, unmute yourself and ask it, I will be able to answer it. And Bhavna, what did you mention about LinkedIn newsletter? I just said that LinkedIn is also has a newsletter option right now, which you can use to just copy paste your email newsletter and create one more medium of newsletter. And it is easy for your LinkedIn community to just read that newsletter on. Uh, yeah. Okay, just John, if you want, you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. I did not understand what is the question about. Yeah. I think I've answered others, most of the others. Yeah. What is used to have a single John, so like I said, you can use any emailing software. uh, PDF is not a great format to have for for newsletters. Uh, Mailchimp. There are a lot of email softwares which have a free subscription for lists up to 10,000 people. You can check them out. Like I said, I will also make a list and I will email you all so that it's easier for you to refer to. Okay, Akshay, I think I've answered all the questions. Akshay, are you there?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Neha. Thanks, everyone, for your wonderful question. One quick request, if you can share the feedback, uh, it will help us to improve our upcoming session. And as I said, our next session is on 10th December on mobile photography. So please join that session. We'll share the registration link ASF. But before that, to all the volunteering organization and people who are engaging volunteers on a regular basis, we have a wonderful nurturing session, online session on 27th on Monday, on coming Monday, which where we'll be having a quick fiery chat, something like Coffee with Karan or Off the Cup with Shekhar Kapoor kind of session with Karthi from Team Everest on virtual volunteer. So if you are a volunteering organization and if you engage volunteer on a regular basis, so look out for that session on Monday 5 p.m. Neha, if you have the link, can you share that link?
Which
Or
link,
else I can
Akshay?
also. No, I'll share, no problem. So that is one session which is happening on Monday. And yeah, this is about it. And Deha had a very innovative alarm sound of pressure cooker for making sure that we are on time. So thank you so much, Neha. Once again, all of us are very indeed of you for sharing your insights and your.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Akshay. Thanks, everyone, for engaging today and being a part of the session.